What were the sexual education disaster stories from your school? This was in the late 90s in public middle school. The school held an assembly and brought in a group of these weird bodybuilders talking about sex and God. One of them tried and failed to rip a phone book in half. I don't remember much about it except they took a volleyball net and stretched it out so the holes got really big and said something to the effect of "This is a condom." Imagine how easy it would be to throw a volleyball through that net. Not hard, right? Well, condoms are made to protect sperm from passing through. But the AIDS virus is much smaller than sperm, and just like a volleyball through this stretch out net, it can get through much easier. Edit. I'm shocked this was such a popular trend, or maybe even the same group or a power team. I just remember being appalled at the religious, abstinence only and anti-science messages. When we were in 8th grade, we had the sex ed teacher come in and talk to us. She showed a picture of a normal D, like one of those see-through pictures that explained each part. Well, in that it showed the balls. The teacher explained what they do and why you need them to impregnate a woman. She asked if there is any questions. Suddenly my friend Alex raises his hand and asks, let's say that a boy only has one ball. Could I still have kids? And that's how we all found out Alex only had one ball. The separated boys and girls. The teacher for the boys let us do open candor anonymously on index cards we put in a box, and he would answer them out loud. He spent most of the time going through them in front of everyone going, "Not gonna read that one. Not gonna read that one. You come on guys." The online sex education that we got in my school was a 2-week course during our biology class. I lived in a pretty conservative part of Texas growing up, so our sex education was basically just about abstinence and a few of the really gross STD pictures. Our biology professor showed us a live birth every year. The worst part is that it was a video of her giving birth to her son. I never want to think about my teachers who her, especially while giving birth. Somebody asked how 2 women can have sex. The 60-year-old female health teacher told us that veal fisting is the standard method, complete with a demonstration for how to perform fisting. The teacher set a dildo directly on the desk of the girl in front of me, and she bursted out crying and left the room. Not exactly sex ed because I had to go to a Catholic school, but all of us boys got banned less than 5 minutes into our puberty talk because 2 kids joked about a poorly drawn diagram of a D. We were told we were gonna have the presentation at a later date. Never did. We pretty much learned that the balls get hairy. That's all. Catholic school was a trip. In 9th grade, they separated all the guys and girls in our year for sex ed. The guys got your typical Catholic school esquisites talk about abstinence and going blind if you masturbate, while us girls got to go grocery shopping and bake cookies for the boys. We never did get a sex talk, and the next year, 4 girls got pregnant. The sex ed teacher had a bag full of goodies, as she put it. I pulled out a dildo and some kid said, "OMG, what is that? I swear I've seen one of those in my house." At my school, the teacher talked about anal sex to preserve virginity and anal stimulation in men. Now I realize she was really open to a lot. A kid asked what popping a cherry was, and the teacher, who was a big burly idiot of a guy, bluntly said, "When women lose their virginity, they bleed all over the bed, and cherries are red." Absolutely mortified expressions washed over the face of every girl in the class, and I vaguely remember one girl saying, "Not happening." Apparently some of them complained to their parents, and the next day he had to clarify, but with the most sarcastic "only some of them do" explanation. My mom was on the PTA at the time, said some of the parents lost their it. Another time, one kid asked why his balls hurt when he squeezed them, and he said, "Because you're squeezing them. Don't do that." I remember in year 10 some people came to our school for sex ed. They put the boys in a separate classroom and then talked about how to use feminine hygiene products for an hour to a room of 15-16-year-old girls. I later learned from my friends that to the boys they talked about nocturnal emissions. Great job, whichever organization that was. Very young female health teacher with long fake nails extremely flustered while demonstrating putting a condom on something D-shaped from the sculpture studio, Arts High School. After a few tries with us laughing, she goes, "Come on, you all know how to do this." Pregnant girl pipes up, "Miss, I clearly do not." They simply decided to stop teaching sex ed my year. No explanation. Once we even asked the health teacher, hey, are we ever going jet sex ed? And she goes, do you guys really want to learn your V's and all that? Yes, we did. On a totally unrelated note, we had more than 6 student pregnancies in my last couple years of high school, and almost 10 more before the kids in my class turned 20. Wild how that happens. My middle school sex ed teacher held both hands out away from his body, palms turned up, and said, I like to play with my wife's titties. We weren't allowed to have a sex ed because the school is in Texas. You couldn't swing a backpack without hitting a pregnant girl. One of the girls I graduated with was pregnant with baby number 2 at graduation. We were about 15-16 years old and our tutor, that weird chemistry teacher with jokes that aren't funny, came in the morning to our class, gave out condoms, started telling all about it, and then he opens a briefcase and puts a dildo on a front desk. The guy who was sitting there, Ukrainian and slightly homophobic, literally flew away to the back of the classroom on his chair. In 10th grade our health teacher asked for volunteers to demonstrate putting a condom onto a banana. Weirdly, she asked one student to put the condom onto the banana and another kid to awkwardly stand there holding the banana erect. The 2 guys who volunteered were best friends. One of them was very popular and the other one was a bit of hanger-on. People used to speculate that he had a thing for his popular best friend, although that was probably just teenagers being gossips. When the 2 of them stood up to do the demo, people whispered to each other and laughed a little bit, probably because of this rumor. The popular kid was the one holding the banana erection and the hanger-on was the one demoing the condom. When the chuckles started, the popular kid began to blush, which of course made the whole experience feel more intimate. Suddenly it's a classroom of 10th graders watching a maybe besotted hanger-on intimately handle his best friend's banana. As the hanger-on began rolling the condom down the tip of the banana, the popular kid, grimacing with embarrassment, squeezed the base of the banana a little too hard, and the banana burst. The peel split on the sides of the banana. The mushy fruit spurted out. The banana had prematurely ejaculated. Once in 7th grade a girl asked if you could get pregnant by a screwdriver. I think about that girl a lot. One guy in my class kept fainting when he saw any private parts, so because of him we didn't jet sex ed. I just find it wrong that the girls and the boys were separated. The boys were taught how to put on a condom. The girls were taught how to prevent rape. Yuck. I was at an all-girls Catholic school, and the scheduled time for sex ed, mostly puberty info, was during bio. Our teacher was a really young guy who was super sweet but also painfully awkward. He'd just sit at his desk while the female nurse came in to give us the talk. Well, the nurse was kind of old and she didn't realize that she was using a Sharpie to draw on the whiteboard instead of a marker. Long story short, there was a giant diagram of a V drawn in red on his whiteboard for months. His face when he realized it belonged on the watching people die inside subreddit. Boys and girls were paired to put condoms on bananas, one at a time. Fun times discovering who was proficient and who less so. Immediate chaos as some of the girls turn out to be quite talented at it. I was trying to put the condom inside out on the banana. It wasn't working, and my partner puts her hands on mine and helps me fix it. I remained seated after class was dismissed. My school brought in Pam Stenzel. John Oliver did a bit about her once. She told all the girls in the audience that they are like a piece of tape and that the more time the tape was used, they had sex, the tape would lose its stickiness. They would no longer be attractive to men. Basically said women who have sex outside of marriage are worthless. The crazier thing is this seemed normal at the time. Secondary school. We had a visitor come in and talk to us about sexual health. We were crammed in a pretty small room. Chairs in neat rows. Things were fine. Fairly light-hearted and educational. Right up until the STD slideshow starts. She pulls up a picture of severe genital warts and the guy behind me immediately projectile vomits chocolate milk all over himself and his row. I have emetophobia, so everything was kind of a blur after that. But I have vague memories of about 30 teenagers trying to book it out the room at the same time. And this guy was just sitting there covered in chocolate milk puke. A puddle of it around his feet looking like he was contemplating drowning himself in it. Felt kinda bad for him. But it didn't stop me bringing it up every time I bumped into the guy for the next 10 years till I moved. Science teacher here. We teach reproduction and puberty to 11-year-olds. I always do an anonymous question box every lesson so kids can ask every random question under the sun. All kids end up out of their seats putting books away, spare paper and questions in the box so no one notices who put questions in the box. Most baffling question: what happens if a lady is pregnant and has a piercing down there? How does the baby get out? My 8th grade health teacher was a bit of a disaster in her sex ed unit. She could not say D or V, claiming that while she knew they were the right words they were just too uncomfortable for her, so she went on about the male part and the female part. To avoid talking to us too much, she had us watch mostly videos about things like puberty, STDs and do these fill in the blanks worksheets. She showed us a perfectly serious educational video called Gonorrhea, No Clapping Matter. She did an open candor in which she disclosed, despite claiming she didn't want to, that she was infertile. One of the guys also managed to get one of the popular girls to ask her what's a necrophiliac. Is that, like, a good thing? To the teacher's credit though, she actually answered that one straight, though she kind of loathed the room for a minute after. We had 2 people come from a local community college who had the brain dead idea to put on a play about STDs and abuse in front of a bunch of 11-year-olds. When they were finished, they said, "Okay, any questions?" And the kid next to me raised his hand and asked if he could use a balloon as a condom. Those 2 college kids never came back to our school again. My teacher for sex ed was super old, telling us all the classical stuff. Then we had our pay teacher tell us it's exactly like a barbecue. I ask because I always see sex ed on TV shown as the students always shocked and disgusted as the teachers do this perfect rundown of a lesson. When I had sex ed, our teachers were very uncomfortable and vague with everything and just ended up skipping the entire thing altogether. We were at our hormonal prime, so might have been nice to know a thing or two. The teacher forgot to put sound on for a birthing video, so he rewinded it. Watched a doctor shove a baby back into a woman's V by the head. Our biology teacher said if someone says that the condom broke, they are lying, and proceeded to grab the condom in both hands and stretch it till it was like 6 foot long. My first encounter was in elementary school, 6th grade, I believe. They separated us by gender and gave us the talk. The instructor was talking about genital hygiene at one point. I was genuinely confused when I learned some folks still have that extra bit of skin on their D's and need to take extra care to wash up. I went home and for the life of me couldn't figure out what I was missing. Later on, porn taught me what an uncircumcised D is. Grew up Mormon. Dad says one is a lock, the other is a key. Mum says sex is sacred. Any other info was beyond enlightening. At the end of the class, a teacher wanted the class to play a sperm race game on the smart board to explain the parts as we were seeing them. One of the more popular boys, who had in the previous trimester gotten a popular girl pregnant, volunteered to play in front of the class. He was the first one to make it to the end of the game and won. Then put his fist in the air and said, "It's not the first time I've won this game." Everyone erupted into laughter. Iconic.